There's a black powder sitting in your kitchen right now that strips chlorine, heavy metals, and industrial chemicals out of contaminated water and makes it drinkable. A full year's supply costs about the same as a cup of coffee. It has been doing this job since before the pyramids were finished, packed inside the water barrels of Egyptian sailing ships, carried in the field kits of ancient Indian physicians, sealed inside the wooden casks of British naval fleets crossing the Atlantic. Scientists who studied those ancient storage methods found the same pattern repeating across every civilization that survived long ocean voyages. The sailors who lined their barrels with char kept their crew alive. The ones who didn't buried them at sea. And once you understand what this powder is actually doing to contaminated water at the level of a single molecule, you will never again pay $50 for a filter cartridge. The global water filtration and purification market was worth just over $45 billion in 2023. It is expected to cross $75 billion by 2032. The World Health Organization has calculated that 2.2 billion people on Earth right now do not have access to safe drinking water. That is roughly one person out of every 4 on the entire planet. And here is the detail buried quietly inside that same report. The technology to purify water at almost zero cost has existed for longer than recorded history. It has been peer-reviewed. It has been replicated in university laboratories on 4 continents. It is sitting on store shelves right now, often in the health food aisle, for under $3. A $45 billion industry does not grow when the answer to contaminated water costs less than a bus fare. You cannot patent charcoal. You cannot trademark a method the Egyptians were using before the wheel was fully understood. You cannot build a subscription business on a process that a 12-year-old can replicate in a plastic bottle with sand from a hardware store bag. That's silence in your water bill. That silence in your city's public health newsletter. That silence in every conversation your local government has ever had with you about water safety. That silence is not an accident. That silence is a revenue model. Stay with me, because the chemistry behind what this powder actually does to contaminated water is more precise and more thorough than the industrial systems your city uses. And once you see how it works, you will understand exactly why they would rather sell you a $35 cartridge every 2 months than teach it to you once for free. I'm not going to tell you this is a new invention. The ancient Egyptians were storing drinking water in charred wooden barrels as far back as 3750 BC. That date is not a guess. It comes from residue analysis on storage vessels recovered from archaeological sites along the Nile Delta. Sanskrit medical texts from India, written over 4,000 years ago, specifically instruct physicians to filter water through charcoal before giving it to sick patients. The instructions are precise. Grind the char fine, press the water through slowly, collect from the bottom only. Those are the same instructions this video will give you in a few minutes. The Japanese have been using a specific purifying charcoal called binchotan for over 300 years. It is dense white oak, burned inside sealed clay kilns at a very low level of oxygen until it transforms into something harder than regular charcoal. A single stick placed in a pitcher of water overnight changes the taste of that water completely. Cleaner, flat, the way water tastes before industry and pipes and chemical treatment get involved. In 1773, a Swedish chemist named Carl Wilhelm Scheele ran the first recorded scientific experiment on charcoal and liquid purification. He pressed contaminated water through a packed bed of charcoal and measured what came out the other side. What he found confirmed what every ancient civilization had already practiced for thousands of years. The charcoal was not filtering particles the way a strainer filters pasta. It was doing something different, something that happens at a scale far too small to see. The reason this works is something you have already seen today. Stay with me, because where you have encountered this is not in a laboratory. It is in your own kitchen. You have seen this your whole life and just never connected the dots. When you put a pot of water on the stove and it smells like chlorine, and then that smell fades slowly as it heats, that is a chemical being pulled out of the water. When you leave a glass of tap water on your counter overnight and it tastes better by morning, that is the same process happening more slowly. When a fish tank filter turns cloudy yellow water clear over the course of 2 days, and the person at the pet shop tells you it is the black layer inside the filter that does the real work. That black layer is charcoal. Same material, same process, same result. Every refrigerator water filter you have ever replaced is built around a pressed block of activated charcoal. The $35 cartridge you slide into the back of the refrigerator door is mostly charcoal compressed into a cylinder. You could make that cartridge yourself at home for less than $3, and it would work as well or better because you can make it denser and thicker than the cartridge ever allows. The purification happens at the surface. More surface means more purification. Activated charcoal is not smooth. Under a microscope, it looks like a broken, crumpled city. Endless crevices and tunnels and hollow chambers at the microscopic scale. 1 level teaspoon of it contains more total surface area than a full-sized American football field. Contaminants in water? Chlorine, lead, pesticides, industrial solvents, volatile organic compounds are drawn into those chambers like dust into a vacuum, and they bond to the carbon. The water passes through, the poison stays behind. Most people who try to build this at home get the very first step completely wrong, and it is the step that determines whether the whole thing works or quietly fails by the second day. Before you go gather your materials, you need to know what that mistake looks like, because it does not look like a mistake while you're making it. It looks like you're following the instructions exactly right. Here's what you need. I want to be honest with you about every number. Food-grade activated charcoal powder. You will find this in the health food or supplement section of most large grocery stores or online for less. Look specifically for the words food grade on the label. A bag large enough to build 3 complete filters costs about $2.50. Do not buy aquarium charcoal. It is not processed or cleaned the same way. Do not buy charcoal capsules meant for stomach upset. They will work, but you will spend 20 minutes pulling open 100 small capsules. Buy loose powder. That is the only form you need. 2 clean plastic bottles. The kind that 2-liter sodas come in, or any sturdy large plastic bottle with a screw cap. You already own these. They cost nothing. If you do not have them, a neighbor will. Ask. Play sand. Not beach sand and not sand scraped from beside a road. Play sand sold in sealed plastic bags at any hardware store. One small bag costs about $3 and will give you enough material to build 10 filters. If you do not want to buy it, rinse and thoroughly dry sand from a clean, natural riverbed, well away from roads, farmland, and any human activity upstream. Small gravel or clean aquarium stones. You need a very thin layer. $1 worth from any pet store is more than enough material for a dozen builds. 2 coffee filters, or a clean piece of woven cotton fabric. An old cotton t-shirt cut into palm-sized squares works perfectly. That is genuinely it. Here's the one thing most people get wrong. They build the filter too loose. What that looks like in practice, the water pours straight through in under 30 seconds. It comes out slightly less cloudy than it went in, smells almost the same, tastes roughly the same. The person concludes the method does not work, puts the bottle down, and goes back to buying cartridges. What that person has built is not a filter. It is a slow pour. Activated charcoal needs time and direct contact with the water moving through it to do its job. If the water passes too quickly, the contaminants do not have enough time to bond to the surface. Think of it like trying to hand someone a note while they are running full speed past you. If they slow down, they take the note. If they are sprinting, the note hits the floor. Success looks completely different. The water drips out slowly. 1 cup takes 2 to 3 full minutes. It comes out clear. It smells flat, clean, still. If you started with tap water, the chlorine smell is gone, completely absent, not just reduced. If you started with river water or well water, the faint yellow-brown color has disappeared, not reduced, gone. The cup you hold up to the window looks like glass. Here is how to build it, so it works correctly from the first hour. Take your first plastic bottle. Remove the cap entirely. Turn it upside down so the opening faces downward. This upside-down bottle is your filter body. The neck opening at the bottom is your spout. This is where the clean water drips out. Take a sharp knife or a pair of scissors and cut a small X into what is now the top of the bottle, which is actually the base. Make the X just large enough to pour water through without splashing. This is your water intake. Set this upside-down bottle down inside your second bottle, which sits open end up. The second bottle catches everything that drips through. Your system is 2 bottles, one inside the other, upside down and right side up. Take 1 coffee filter or a square of cotton cloth about the size of your open palm. Press it down into the upside-down bottle from the intake opening you just cut. Work it down toward the spout at the bottom. It does not need to lie perfectly flat. It just needs to cover the spout opening completely. This bottom layer is the last thing your water touches before it exits. Its only job is to catch fine charcoal dust so your filtered water does not come out black on the first few pours. Press it gently. Move on. Pour in your gravel. Fill it to about the depth of 2 stacked fingers. The gravel layer is your first line of defense. It catches large particles, leaf fragments, visible sediment, anything with physical bulk before the water reaches anything below. Level it gently by tapping the side of the bottle. Now pour in your sand, about 3 stacked fingers deep. Pour slowly, letting the sand settle between the gravel pieces rather than sitting on top as a separate layer. If you pour too fast, the sand piles up in a loose mound and the water will find the path of least resistance around it. Slow means the sand fills every space properly. The sand catches fine silt, suspended clay, microscopic soil particles, everything the gravel let through. Pay close attention to what comes next. This is the layer that separates a real filter from a decorative bottle of sand. Most people put in too little of it, and that single decision is the reason the filter fails for them while it works for everyone who gets this step right. Pour in your activated charcoal powder. Fill it to at least 4 fingers deep. You can go deeper. Deeper is always better. This is not the step to be conservative about. The charcoal layer should be the single thickest layer in the entire filter, thicker than the sand, thicker than the gravel. As you pour it in, tap the side of the bottle with your knuckle, the way you would tap a salt shaker when the salt has clumped. Tap steadily as you pour. This settles the charcoal down into the sand below, rather than letting it sit as a light, fluffy pile on top. Dense charcoal slows the water movement through it. That slowness is the entire mechanism. That contact time between the water and the charcoal surface is everything this filter is built around. Pack it. Do not rush this step. When the charcoal layer is in, pour one more thin layer of sand directly on top of it, about 1 finger deep. The sand protects the charcoal from being stirred up every time you add water from above. Without this protective layer, every pour disturbs the charcoal surface and you get black water running out the bottom for the first 2 minutes while the fine dust settles again. With the sand cap, the water enters gently through the sand before it ever touches the charcoal below, and the charcoal stays packed and still. Now place your second coffee filter or cloth square directly on top of the sand, right at the opening where you will pour your water in. Press it into place gently. This is your intake layer. It catches debris from your source water before it ever enters the filter, which extends the life of everything below it. Your filter is built. Before you use it for drinking, pour in 1 full cup of clean water. Tap water is fine for this step, and let it run all the way through. Discard whatever comes out. It will be gray or dark. That is fine charcoal dust making its way through for the first time. This flush is not a failure. It is the filter clearing itself. 1 flush is enough. After that single flush, the next pour should come out clear. To test whether your filter is working correctly, fill a cup from it and carry it to a window. Hold the cup up so that light passes through it from behind. Do not look at the surface. Look through the water at the window frame beyond it. Water that still carries dissolved contaminants will show a faint haze, a cloudiness that is easy to miss until you are specifically looking for it. Water that has passed properly through a dense, well-packed charcoal layer will be optically clear. You will see the window frame behind it with no distortion, no color, no haze. That clarity is the visual confirmation that the filter is working. One filter built this way, with $2.50 of charcoal, handles about 3 months of daily water filtration for one person, before the charcoal becomes saturated with trapped contaminants and needs replacing. 3 months of filtered water at a cost of less than a single bottle of water at a gas station checkout counter. A family of 4, running 4 filters in rotation, spends about $10 a year. That breaks down to $2.50 per person for every cup of filtered water they drink, across all 12 months of the year. Scale that to a small community. 40 people sharing 10 filters cycling in rotation, and the total annual material cost is $25. Divide that across 10 families, and each family contributes less than $3 for the year. $3 per family per year for clean filtered water every single day. Here is the number that makes those comparisons feel real and solid. A standard water filter pitcher, the kind that sits inside millions of refrigerators right now, costs about $40 for the pitcher and roughly $25 per replacement cartridge. Replacement is recommended every 2 months. That same family of 4 is spending $150 every year to accomplish the same filtration this $10 system achieves. The cartridge inside that refrigerator pitcher is activated charcoal. The same material, thinner, less of it, compressed into a mold with a brand name printed on the plastic. The charcoal does not care whose name is on the cartridge. You can also extend the life of your charcoal beyond its natural saturation point. When your filter starts showing signs of slowing effectiveness, water takes longer to drip through, or the smell of your source water is less completely removed, take the charcoal out of the filter, spread it in a thin, even layer on a baking sheet, set your oven to roughly the temperature you would use for a loaf of bread, leave it for 1 hour. The heat drives the trapped contaminants out of the charcoal's tiny chambers and restores much of its surface area. The material resets, not completely. Each regeneration cycle reduces total effectiveness by a small margin, but you can stretch a single $2.50 purchase across 2 or 3 full regeneration cycles before it genuinely needs replacing. One purchase, 6 to 9 months of active filtration. No bills, no infrastructure, no asking anyone's permission. This filter does not do everything, and you need to know exactly where it stops. Activated charcoal traps chemicals. It traps heavy metals. It traps chlorine, pesticide residue, and dissolved organic compounds. It does not kill living bacteria. It does not trap viruses. If your water source is biologically contaminated, if there are animals or livestock upstream, if there has been recent flooding, if the source is any kind of standing water that does not move and circulate, you need to either boil the filtered water for a full minute after it passes through the charcoal layer, or add 2 small drops of plain unscented household bleach per 1 liter, and wait 30 minutes before drinking. The charcoal handles the chemistry. Heat or bleach handles the biology. In clean, natural sources, a fast-moving mountain stream above any human activity, a deep well in unfarmed land, rainwater collected from a clean roof into a clean container, This filter alone is sufficient and complete. Know your source. The filter performs exactly as well as your judgment about where the water came from. Those Egyptian sailors carved the insides of their water barrels black with fire and filled them with river water and crossed open sea for weeks at a time without losing their crew to disease. The Indian physicians ground the same black material fine, pressed water through it slowly, and handed it to patients who could not afford to be made sicker by what they drank. The Japanese craftsmen pulled a stick of white oak from a sealed clay kiln, set it in a clay pitcher, and left it to work through the night while the house slept. None of them had a brand name. None of them had a patent. None of them needed a subscription. What you just built carries the same chemistry those sailors trusted with their lives on open ocean with no land in sight. The charcoal was always there. The knowledge was always there. It was just waiting for someone to stop buying the cartridge and start asking what was inside it. I don't know what brought you here. It doesn't matter. It works either way.